The sky is falling, but it's not fire, it's water. A deluge unlike anything seen in decades is engulfing the United States, transforming 2025 into a relentless year of the flood. Homes, livelihoods, and even lives are being swallowed by the relentless torrents, leaving behind a trail of unimaginable devastation and raising a terrifying question. Where will the victims go when the waters recede and there's nothing left but ruin? This isn't just about record-breaking rainfall. It's about a looming humanitarian crisis as countless families face the grim reality of homelessness. Their futures wash away in the devastating currents. Prepare to witness the harrowing truth of a nation under siege by its own weather. Unprecedented deluge. The numbers don't lie. 2025 has cemented its place in history as the year of the flood in the United States, a grim title earned through an onslaught of unprecedented rainfall and deadly flash floods. The sheer volume of warnings issued by the National Weather Service, NWS, tells a chilling story. As of July 20th, a staggering 3,358 flash flood warnings have been issued this year. This figure shatters previous records, standing more than 250 warnings ahead of any prior year on record for the same period, with the previous high in 1998. To put this into perspective, the U.S. has already surpassed its annual average for flash flood reports by mid-July, recording more than double the typical number. Texas underwater. A catastrophe of biblical proportions. While the entire nation grapples with this hydro apocalypse, Texas has borne the brunt of 2025's flood fury. The catastrophic flooding of the Guadalupe River, particularly over the July 4th weekend in the picturesque hill country, has been nothing short of a tragedy. The death toll in Texas alone stands a horrifying 145 lives, making it the deadliest non-tropical cyclone-related flood event in the U.S. since 1976. Eyewitness accounts speak of a 20-foot wall of water surging down the Guadalupe River, destroying homes, roads, and bridges in mere hours. In some areas, over 11 inches of rain fell in a matter of hours, an amount that would typically be spread over an entire month. Towns like Hunt, Kerrville, and Comfort, usually serene havens, were transformed into churning rapids. The devastation was so sudden and overwhelming that many communities, lacking adequate early warning systems, had little to no time to react. The human cost is immeasurable, with families ripped apart and communities struggling to comprehend the scale of their loss. Beyond Texas, flash floods have wreaked havoc in disparate locations, from the arid landscapes of Ruidoso, New Mexico, where at least 3 lives were lost, to the bustling metropolises of Chicago and New York City, and across parts of North Carolina and New Jersey. New York City, a concrete jungle not typically associated with such deluges, experienced a dramatic rainfall event where more than 2 inches of rain fell in just 1 hour over Central Park, the second highest 1-hour rainfall total ever recorded in the city's history, paralyzing transportation and overwhelming drainage systems. The rising tide of homelessness, a silent crisis unfolding. As the floodwaters slowly recede, a new, equally devastating crisis is emerging: widespread homelessness. The initial estimates are grim, with approximately 250,000 homes severely damaged or utterly destroyed in the 2025 flood so far. This figure represents not just structures, but the very foundations of people's lives. For many, rebuilding their homes will be an insurmountable financial hurdle. The economic impact is projected to be in the tens of billions of dollars, with infrastructure, agriculture, and small businesses all suffering immense losses. But the real tragedy lies in the human element. Each damaged or destroyed home represents a family displaced, a life uprooted. Many of these families had little to no flood insurance, or their policies offered insufficient coverage for the scale of the damage. The reality of recovering from such a disaster without adequate financial resources is daunting, if not impossible. The pre-existing homelessness crisis in the U.S., already on an upward trend, is now being catastrophically exacerbated by these floods. Data from earlier in 2025 indicated a rise in homelessness, with natural disasters already cited as a contributing factor in some municipalities experiencing large increases. The current scale of displacement is unprecedented in recent memory, threatening to push hundreds of thousands of individuals and families into long-term precarious housing situations or outright destitution. The emotional toll of losing everything, not just a house, but cherished memories, personal belongings, and a sense of security, is immense and will have lasting psychological impacts on survivors. The economic fallout, billions washed away. The economic devastation unleashed by the year of the flood is staggering, with initial estimates suggesting the total damages will run into the tens of billions of dollars. The 250,000 homes severely damaged or destroyed represent direct loss of residential property value, but the ripple effects extend far beyond. Infrastructure, including roads, bridges, power grids, and water treatment facilities, has been severely compromised, requiring monumental investment for repair and reconstruction. Agricultural sectors in affected regions have seen crops wiped out and livestock lost, impacting local economies and potentially contributing to rising food prices. Small businesses, the backbone of many communities, have been shuttered, some permanently, leading to job losses and a decline in local tax revenues. The cost of emergency response, search and rescue operations, and temporary sheltering for displaced populations adds further strain to state and federal budgets. Insurance companies are bracing for a deluge of claims, potentially leading to increased premiums and even market instability in high-risk areas. The long-term economic recovery will be a marathon, not a sprint, with many communities facing years, if not decades, of rebuilding. This financial burden will inevitably fall on taxpayers, highlighting the urgent need for robust disaster preparedness and climate change adaptation strategies to mitigate future losses. The alarming statistics. Let's dissect the data even further to grasp the true scale of this crisis. The 3,358 flash flood warnings issued by the NWS as of July 20th represent an astounding increase. To put it in context, by this point in 2024, the NWS had issued approximately 3,100 warnings. In 2023, that number was closer to 2,950. This demonstrates a clear and accelerating trend. Historically, the average number of flash flood warnings issued by mid-July hovers around 2,800. We are currently 19.9% above that average. The annual average for flash flood reports nationwide is typically around 5,500. As of mid-July 2025, we have already exceeded 11,000 flash flood reports, an increase of over 100%, a truly unprecedented figure. This means not only are more warnings being issued, but actual flash flood events are occurring at an alarming rate. The number of high-impact flood events, defined as those causing significant damage or fatalities, has also seen a substantial jump, increasing by approximately 35% compared to the 5-year average for the same period. These aren't just abstract figures. They represent flooded homes, destroyed businesses, and lives irrevocably altered. The human cost, stories of survival and despair. Behind the staggering statistics are countless personal stories of terror, loss, and resilience. In the Texas Hill Country, accounts from survivors paint a harrowing picture. Families clinging to rooftops, children separated from parents, and swift water rescues under perilous conditions became the grim reality for days. The emotional scars of these events will run deep. Many lost not only their homes, but all their possessions, including irreplaceable heirlooms and family photos. The psychological trauma of witnessing such destruction, or escaping with only the clothes on their backs, cannot be overstated. Mental health support will be a critical, ongoing need for these communities. The displaced are now facing the immediate challenge of finding shelter, food, and basic necessities, often relying on the kindness of strangers and overwhelmed aid organizations. For some, the decision to evacuate came too late, highlighting the desperate need for more effective and timely warning systems. The story of Camp Mystic, a century-old Christian summer camp for girls along the Guadalupe River, is particularly poignant, with at least 27 campers and counselors among the deceased. These personal tragedies underscore the brutal and indiscriminate nature of these floods, affecting everyone from vacationers to long-time residents. Government response and the road to recovery, a rocky path ahead. In the wake of such widespread devastation, the federal, state, and local governments are grappling with a massive and multifaceted response. President Donald Trump has issued major disaster declarations, freeing up federal funds for recovery efforts, including grants for temporary housing and low-cost loans for uninsured property losses. However, the initial federal response has faced scrutiny, with some reports suggesting delays in aid and rescue efforts from the Federal Emergency Management Agency, FEMA. At the state level, particularly in Texas, lawmakers are convening special sessions to address the crisis, focusing on improving early warning systems and emergency communications, especially in areas that lack them. There's a push to set building standard for youth camps and floodplains, a direct response to the tragic loss of life at Camp Mystic. Long-term recovery efforts are being coordinated by various organizations, including the Salvation Army, Team Rubicon, and World Central Kitchen, providing emergency relief, cleanup assistance, and financial aid. However, the sheer scale of the damage and projected increase in homelessness mean that the road to full recovery will be long and arduous. It will require sustained commitment, significant financial investment, and a coordinated, comprehensive approach that prioritizes not just rebuilding infrastructure, but also supporting the human element of recovery, providing housing solutions, mental health services, and economic assistance to those whose lives have irrevocably altered. Beyond the headlines, preparing for a flooded future. The year of the flood in 2025 serves as a chilling wake-up call, a stark reminder that the impact of climate change are no longer distant threats, but present realities. The record-breaking flash flood warnings and the devastating human and economic toll underscore the urgent need for a paradigm shift in how the U.S. approaches disaster preparedness and climate resilience. This includes significant investment in modernizing and expanding early warning systems, particularly in vulnerable regions. It demands a reevaluation of building codes and urban planning, moving away from development in high-risk floodplains and investing in green infrastructure solutions that can absorb excess rainfall. Furthermore, there is an urgent need to address the systemic vulnerabilities that leave certain populations, particularly low-income communities and people of color, disproportionately impacted by these disasters. Expanding access to affordable flood insurance and providing robust financial assistance for rebuilding are critical. Ultimately, however, the long-term solution lies in aggressive climate action to mitigate global warming. Without a significant reduction in greenhouse gas emissions, the year of the flood risks becoming merely a precursor to an even more waterlogged and volatile future. The resilience of communities and the well-being of millions depend on whether the nation learns from the grim lessons of 2025 and acts decisively to prepare for and ultimately prevent the escalating flood crisis. The clock is ticking and the waters are rising. Climate change, the elephant in the floodplain. While it's crucial to acknowledge the immediate meteorological factors contributing to the 2025 floods, we cannot ignore the larger context of climate change. Scientists overwhelmingly agree that a warming planet leads to more frequent and intense rainfall events. As global temperatures rise, the atmosphere can hold more moisture, approximately 7% more for every degree Celsius of warming. This increased moisture provides a fuel for the supercharged thunderstorms and prolonged rainfall events that are now becoming more common. Furthermore, changes in atmospheric circulation patterns, potentially influenced by Arctic warming, can lead to stalled weather systems, allowing rain to fall continuously over the same areas for extended periods, overwhelming drainage capacities. The year of the flood is not an anomaly. It's a symptom of a broader, systemic shift in our climate. Ignoring this fundamental driver will be akin to treating the symptoms of a serious illness without addressing its underlying cause. Mitigating the impacts of climate change through global efforts to reduce carbon emissions is not just an environmental imperative. It's a matter of national security and economic stability. The floods of 2025 serve as a stark reminder that the consequences of a changing climate are no longer distant predictions, but present-day reality with devastating consequences.